How would you like to achieve your first million? And today we have Paige with us, which she is the founder and CEO of global branding and digital marketing firm Mavens Moguls, based in Cambridge. Her clients include Microsoft, Virgin, the New York Times Company, Colgate, and venture-backed startup. So, Paige, tell us, what are the 5 steps to make your first million?
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
Thanks, Harry, for having me. I'm excited
Pleasure.
to talk to you today. There are a million steps, but I'm going to try and boil it down to the top 5.
To condense them.
Number 1, you really need to make sure there's a market for what you're selling. So you need to do market research. It doesn't need to be fancy or expensive, but you need to make sure there's a market for your product and service and that they're willing to pay for it. So, I started my marketing career at Procter & Gamble, and at
Wow.
P&G, everything is grounded in your customer kind of research. It's not what you think. It's not what I think. It's what does your customer think? And are they willing to pay for it? So start there. Then, you want to make friends before you need them. So you need to find people who you build those relationships with, and plant like a million seeds. But you need to give before you get. People don't want to, immediately start buying from you until you have a relationship. People buy from businesses and people that they know, like, and trust. So you have to build that relationship from the ground up. And in my experience, if you invest in those relationships and nurture those leads, they will be with you for the long term. It's not a transaction, it's a relationship you're trying to build. At that point, you know that there's a market. You've got people that are predisposed, that understand what you're selling, and you've got a value proposition. So there's something unique, special, and different about your offering versus the competition. At the end of the day, people have to understand what it is that what that benefits them. It's not about all the fancy bells and whistles and all the features that you're offering, but it's what is beneficial to them. Is it cheaper? Is it more convenient? What is it about your product and service that's going to make their life easier? So you've got to boil it down to that. And you can't stand for everything. You need to stand for just a couple of important issues. People can't remember 10 different things. They can remember maybe 2 things, at most 3. So, you need to get your elevator pitch and your value proposition so that it's crystal clear to them what's in it for them. You're nurturing those leads over time. You're giving them something with no expectation of anything in return. If you do all those things correctly, I think you've laid a great foundation for a business that's going to be sustainable for the long term. I think a lot of people they get so wrapped up in what they're trying to do, what they're trying to sell. People don't like to be sold to. They love to buy things, but it needs to come kind of from the inside out so that they really understand that you're a brand why they should pay for it, how they're going to benefit from it.
Thank you so much. So, Paige, tell us, why do you think what has been the biggest challenge in you that you have building your business, and how you overcome that challenge?
So, like a lot of entrepreneurs, you know, the people that you start with are not always the ones that are going to grow with you over time. And so, having the right people on your team, you might have heard the saying, get the right people on the bus. You want to make sure you've got the right team around you to be successful for the long term, for a sustainable growth. And one of the biggest mistakes I made early on, which is common for entrepreneurs, is the people that you start with. Sometimes they're great at the beginning, but as you are scaling, as you are growing, they are not growing with you. And, they say that there's a famous saying that you hire slowly and fire quickly. And when you start realizing that the team is not comfortable with, you're very from year quadruple. Year 3, we tripled. Year 4, we doubled. And so the base of the business was growing very quickly. And there were a couple of people on the team that were more like one-trick ponies. They were very good at what they did, but they were very uncomfortable outside of that very small scope. And so my failure, I guess, is, I want to be loyal and bring people along and give people the benefit of the doubt. But it became increasingly obvious to me and to the team that these people were getting more threatened and uncomfortable as we were growing, and they were holding us back. And it took me a little longer than it should have, but eventually I realized they were not going to be part of our future. They were an important part of the past, but they were not growing along with our scale. So I had to shake hands and part ways with a couple of people who were helpful early on that were just getting more threatened as we were growing pretty quickly. What that does is it sends a signal to the rest of your team that you really value the A-team players, and you want to surround yourself with the very best people. Having a strong team that does, they're very complementary skill sets. My team was very good at things that maybe I wasn't as good at, so together we were a really great force. And as soon as I let those people go, the rest of the team just thrived. The bar got higher. We got stronger. People realized you have to be great to stay with this organization. We want only the best people that can grow with us at this fast rate. So I would just tell other entrepreneurs out there, it's hard to let people go. It's hard to kind of, fasten your seatbelt and grow at the speed that the market needs. And if people are not helping you get there faster, you need to kind of move them along so that you can move along at a better rate with a better culture. And people will really rise to the occasion. When the bar got higher, everybody rose up.
Yeah, it's different because sometimes, when the people that you start with, also some of them, they are very committed. They're willing to work with you 24/7 because they are starting with you and they treat the company like they were theirs. But then when you scale up and you have several more than 10 employees, no, everyone will fit into that culture of startup culture, and some adjustment has to be done during the line because it won't be it won't be possible to get them all committed. However, culture is one of the the most strongest
Critical.
element.
Absolutely critical.
Yeah, I asked this question to a lot of entrepreneurs in this same podcast. Um, if you had to start all over again, what would be the main thing that you put attention? And lots of them are giving me this answer: culture, Harry, because um, if we knew number one that the people we're starting with that is gonna be 10 times, 100 times harder, we will look after them very good. At the same time, um, you will know at the beginning of the business who doesn't fit into that culture. And it's very easy. Sometimes you bring an employee, and the employees, they think that they're working in a corporate, that they need holidays, they need a lot of money, they need all these benefits that doesn't fit the value of a startup. The startup won't be able to afford any of these things because the startup itself doesn't know if it's gonna make it. Now,
Exactly. No, like I said, it's a common problem, but you don't know how you're going to react until it happens to you, and then you have to be very, very clear, very decisive, and yeah, the culture really matters. I mean, I need everyone on our team to be a reflection of the values of our brand and our company. And if people are holding back, they're threatened, they're uncomfortable, that's not the right formula. It's not the right special sauce for high growth businesses.
so during COVID times, there were 80% of the entrepreneurs decided that was a very good idea to cut the marketing budget because they didn't know what is going to be the business situation. And they thought that was a good idea to cut the marketing budget. There were other people that they were very clever, and they realized that the competitors reduced the budget of marketing, and what they did, they increased it, and some of marketing force are for pay advertising. So it's a big bidding process. Of course, if you have less people bidding for the keywords, it's actually cheaper. So 20% of the entrepreneur put a foot on the gas and triple the investment in marketing in the capacity to acquire clients. Where 80%, because it was concerned, they were concerned, they decided that it was a good idea to reduce the marketing budget. So, what's your opinion, and which one do you think that took the right decision?
So obviously, I'm a big believer in the power of marketing. Our tagline is because marketing matters. I had a professor in business school that said, marketing is everything and everything is marketing. And I really believe that. I think when he said it at first, I used to laugh and roll my eyes. But I think the longer I've been doing marketing, the more I think what he's
Absolutely, it's the
absolutely,
capacity to attract clients.
if
And
nobody knows about
if
you,
you don't have those leads, how you gonna sell your product? And if you don't sell your
exactly.
product, you have nothing.
Exactly. If people don't know about you, they're not going to be buying from you. So, COVID was a really interesting period because, like you said, a lot of people got nervous. They wanted to conserve cash. They cut back their marketing. They laid off people that were doing marketing. Interestingly, and not surprisingly, the people that we worked with during the pandemic looked at it as a huge opportunity because, like you said, there's not as
So
much noise, there's not as much competition. And what
it was
we
an
saw
amazing opportunity to get more market share, right? For
exactly, and what we saw from the companies that we were working with during that period, they realized the world had changed and the market had changed in so many different ways. I mean, think about
do you lose any
how
clients? Do you have some clients that give you resistance?
yeah, we had people that decided to put their marketing on hold and, they suffered the consequences, unfortunately. But we had several new clients who realized this was a great opportunity.
That was
And
time to put the foot on the gas. Yeah, absolutely.
exactly. And what a lot of companies were not willing to do before the pandemic is to do customer research. And we talked about market research at the beginning of our time here, but market research was more important than ever before, because think about how much the world changed in March of 2020.
Oh,
How we
absolutely.
worked, where we worked, what we wore to work. I mean, everything just got, turned upside down. So a lot of businesses used us to help them talk to their customers about, the landscape. What's different? How are you thinking about this category or your purchase decisions? So I think the really smart strategic businesses, whether they hired us or did it on their own, they took a step back. They really looked at it as an opportunity to actively listen to their customers and their prospects. And they looked at the primary, secondary, and tertiary audiences, all the people that were involved in the decision to buy the product or service, and they customized the message accordingly. So, you've got the person, let's say, whoever your direct customer or client is, but especially during the pandemic, maybe the finance team or the procurement department, there were other people who were very involved in the decision because of the complexity of all the world being turned upside down. So you might have one message to your direct client, a different message to the finance people to show how long-term this is a cost savings, or what the return on your investment is going to be. So there was a financial message. There might have been a supply chain message. Remember how the supply chain got completely messed up originally during COVID. So they were able to customize their messages for each audience that was involved in the decision process. And that made their marketing and their messaging much tighter, much more relevant. And they were able to take advantage of the fact that there was a lot less noise, a lot fewer competitors. So like you said, it was an opportunity to gain market share, not lose it. And the best part was those clients that invested in marketing had great stories to tell. And then they could use teams like ours to help them get their stories out there through thought leadership and content marketing and social media. So they were able to really leverage the market research to do more public relations to get their story out into the market even better. So they really benefited from the setback in the economy.
Yeah. So, and there is a difference. Some entrepreneurs, they see marketing as an overhead, and some of them see it as an investment. So basically, if I spend $3 in marketing, for example, and then cost me two to produce the product, so then I go five, and then my cost of sales. But then if I sell my product for 20, well, there is always a good reason to invest in marketing, because I'm investing in the dollars that I'm investing and getting a return for it, because I'm a client acquiring clients. But others see like this an overhead, that this is marketing is same like salary for people, and especially in the startup world, when the entrepreneurs go into this mark 0 to 1 million to make the product market fit. They actually people don't understand that they depend on the client. If they're in that phase, if they don't have the client, they don't have a business. After when the business scale from 10 million to 100 million, well, the business is already optimized processes, and they have a consistent way to bring the client. So we can say that they don't depend the client anymore, because they have this process already figured out. However, in the 0 to 1 million, in what we call a product market fit, marketing it become literally the priority, because the way that you market the product and to unlock this puzzle, what will be the strategy that is gonna give you the clients to buy your products and services. um, that is where it will play a big part in to achieve your first million, into arrive to the into getting to the product market, right?
Without a doubt, and during the pandemic, we started offering a 90-day boot camp for public relations.
Oh wow.
So that, and it was a very successful program, because basically we would tell clients that if they had a great story to tell, within 3 months, they would make a small investment, and we would almost be able to guarantee that they would bring in enough business that would more than pay for the investment in PR. And at the end of 90 days, if they don't like it, we shake hands, we part ways, and we're done. But what happened was, because we were proactively getting their story out there, they were getting lots of meetings, they were getting lots of opportunities to be in front of their customers, and they were closing more deals, and it was happening faster because they were showing up in a lot of new places. And at the end of the 3 months, we'd say, okay, we finished the project. Thank you very much. We hope you've enjoyed it. And they'd say, wait a minute, you can't go away now. Now we're getting all this traction. Now it's starting to really catch fire. We have to keep going, because they realized for a little bit of money, they got a big payoff. And after that, they didn't want us to go anywhere. They wanted to keep us working. And so you're exactly right that, you have to show that return on the investment, so that marketing is not an expense. It's a way to jumpstart and kind of boost your visibility, your profile, and it more than pays for itself when you get, if you're a professional service firm, business to business, if you sign up a handful of new clients, wow, like that, you're ready to go. You're feeling like, oh my goodness, this is terrific. Because the truth is, you get one chance to make a great first impression in front of your audience. And so if you get out there and you have a great story to tell, and they go to your website and they see, wow, this is a really good business. I want to learn more. I need to meet with these guys. I want a demo. I want to talk to them. You can see the connection between kind of, building that relationship, getting your story out there, and converting those leads. It's a huge impact.
Yeah. And then the next question is regarding why do you decided to become an entrepreneur? Do you have an entrepreneur in your family? What happened there?
So originally, I had no dreams of entrepreneurship. To be honest, my father and both my grandfathers were bankers. So I wanted to be a banker, and I worked at a bank. But even though it was a very good job, I made money, I didn't really love the work very much. And when 9/11 happened, that was another situation where marketing got cut everywhere. But I had worked originally in big corporate companies doing marketing at Procter and Gamble, like Coca-Cola. And then I started doing marketing for startup companies that were venture backed. And all of those companies were very successful. So after 9/11, I hung out a shingle and started my own business. But the truth is, I never wrote a business plan. I never intended to still be running my company 23 years later. But here, so the good news is it was successful. But I think, when I was a student, I wanted to be like Meg Whitman. I wanted to be a Fortune 500 CEO and work for a big multinational company. But when I worked for the startup businesses, I really loved being in a more entrepreneurial environment. Um, and I've never looked back. So for me, I don't think I realized that I was going to enjoy working in a small company as much as I have. And I love being my own boss. I think that that has been a really great opportunity for me to kind of learn and grow. And I wake up every morning very energized about all the opportunities for my business.
Working in corporate versus being your own boss and become an entrepreneur. uh, is the difference from the day and night, right? Because when you are in a corporate, you get paid very good money. You go to work 9 to 5, and you have your weekends and you have your holidays, and you don't need to worry about anything. And you have to become really really good at some specific thing where when you become an entrepreneur, the whole thing change. You have to learn about everything. And then now there is no such a thing as 9 to 5, and definitely um, there is no such a thing, and this is not my job. uh, so however, it's exciting, and I love it. So why do you decide that to make that transition, and what message do you have for the people in women in corporate that they're listening this broadcast and they want to be an entrepreneur, they want to start their own business, they want to become their own boss because they have kids, they want to spend more time with the family, they want to go on holiday as long as they want, and they are trapped like in a golden cage, and it's kind of a fear what is stopping them to start their own journey. So what message do you have for people in corporate, for women and men in corporate, that they are on the fence, and still, like for example, you said 9/11 happened, and sometimes the stories that we hear in this podcast, something always happen, and then we decide to become an entrepreneur. Somebody got sick, somebody died, 9/11 happened. um, Something sometimes happens, and this is when we say, okay, I have to change. They got fired, and then is when they realize that, okay, I had to do my business. So why something drastic needs to happen in order for give to this big push, and to turn your life what you really want to do. Again, what message do you have for people in corporate that want to become an entrepreneurs?
Um, Basically, for my journey, I took baby steps. Like I said, I started with a big company. Then I went to startup companies. Then I started my own business. So for me, it was not a one step, it was a few steps. And for me, that was a comfortable pace and a good way to end up
Absolutely.
being an entrepreneur. I don't,
People can start gradually, right? It's a big mistake, I think, that you say, okay, I quit my job and now I'm gonna start a business. It's a huge risk. When I started
absolutely,
my first business, I was building my business parallel to the job that I have, and then
a lot of people,
it went like this for a while. I think a couple of
right?
years.
Yeah, they started as a side gig. They do it on
Mm-hmm.
nights, weekends, and
Mm-hmm.
holidays,
As a
and
side gig.
they write a business plan, they do research. That's a good, you did it one way, I did it a different way. So there are a lot of different paths to being an entrepreneur where you can be successful. I don't think it's any one thing.
Absolutely.
Uh, but I guess my advice to people would be, again, make sure you do market research that is indicative of the market that you're trying to enter. One mistake I see is that people will come to me and say, I have this amazing idea and everybody tells me it's so great, but when I started my business, nobody is buying it. What's the problem? I don't understand. Everyone thought it was great, but no one's buying it. And so I'll say, great, tell me who you talked to. Where did you do your market research? And the entrepreneur will say, I talked to my
Family and
mother,
friends.
my friend, my
People that are not
family.
gonna buy it.
Exactly. And so that's not market research. That's asking people who love you and don't want to hurt your feelings. They're going to tell you whatever they can to make you feel happy. But there's a saying that says, no one's going to tell you your baby's ugly, especially your friends and family.
Absolutely.
So I think, you have to really do objective research. And again, it doesn't have to be statistically significant. You can send out a Zoomerang or a Survey Monkey, but you just have to ask the right people who are really going to buy the product or service. And if you ask bad questions, they talk about leading the witness. If you're asking questions in a way that, again, shows that you don't want honest feedback. So, Harry, tell me what you love about my business. Harry, how much do you want to spend with me? That's not market research. That's not helpful.
Yeah.
So what I would tell any entrepreneur, but especially women, you have to put a stake in the ground, know that what you're offering, know your benefits, know your value proposition. Like, you've got to have a great story to tell, and you practice telling your story and see if people are buying what you're talking about. Are they interested? Do they want to hear more? Or, you have to incorporate that feedback. But if people aren't attracted to the story, you really have to take a step back and ask yourself, what's wrong with the offering? Like, you have to be very critical, and maybe you need to surround yourself with mentors or people that can be honest and give you feedback in addition to the research. You have to be very good at networking. I think it's really important when you start to, be able to be comfortable talking to lots of people and using your network to kind of get your story straight and meet the people that are going to help you on the journey. The other thing is, you have to have an online presence. Again, what did we learn during COVID? If you don't exist online, you're invisible. And if you're invisible, that's a terrible marketing strategy. So if people are going to meet with you, invite you to be on their podcast, if they're going to have lunch with you or coffee or have a meeting, what do? They Google you and they say, who is this person? Is it worth my time? Is it worth my energy to return the phone call, to answer the email? Do I even want to have a conversation with this person? So you should practice and Google yourself and see what comes up. Because if nothing comes up, why do they want to meet with you? You're nobody. If something comes up that's really good, they're going to be like, wow, this is an interesting person. I want to learn more. I definitely want to have a meeting. But if something comes up and maybe it's not very good information, you have digital dirt, they're going to wonder, like, this person could be trouble. I don't want to be associated with them. So, you have to clean up well. And, I always tell people, especially in B2B, you want to make sure you have a strong LinkedIn profile, because LinkedIn is not just a resume or a Rolodex. In this world today, it's a digital world. And if you and I almost definitely are going to know people in common. So when you Google people, one of the first things that usually comes up is their LinkedIn profile. So you're going to click on that and you're going to see, who is Harry? Who does he know that I know? does he clean up well? Is this someone that's worth my time? And maybe we have 10 people in common. So I could ask my friends, my colleagues, what do you know about Harry? Is he a good guy? Is he honest? Is he smart? Is he kind? Tell me what you know. And some of those people may not know you very well. Some of them may know you very well. So you have to do your homework. But I think if you want to build a trusted relationship in a digital world, you need to clean up well online. So be careful. You know, all these platforms, people are all over the place on social media. And you see it happen all the time where they tweet things that are not very nice. They're racist, they're sexist. You know, they say something that is very offensive. And people will find that online and say, I don't want to do business with this person. I don't want to be associated with them. But if you're building a strong brand, the best way to do that is to have a consistent presence across everything online so that you show up in a way where I have a very good sense of who you are, what you stand for. You don't have to be everywhere, but where you are, you want to have a consistent story so that if I invite you to be on my podcast, if we meet for a lunch or a business meeting, I know who's going to show up. I can trust that I know who this person is because they show up everywhere I see them online. It's the same story. It's consistent. If it's not consistent, you're adding an element of concern or possible distrust because you don't know which version of the person is going to be there. Is it the smart one? Is it the mean one? Is it the stupid one? Whatever. So you really have to be careful. So I guess the advice I would say is don't be invisible and make sure that the image that you portray is consistent and it's how you want to be known for, what you want to stand for.
Yeah. So then, uh, so if someone is in love with our conversation and want to know more about your company, tell us how can they find you? How this process work? How can you help people with?
Great. So the best way to find me is either on my website or LinkedIn. It's mavensandmoguls.com, mavensandmoguls.com, or my name on LinkedIn. You can see I have a hyphenated last name, but on LinkedIn, it's all together. And one of my clients always says, because my company has an ampersand and my last name has a hyphen, there are too many words and she can never remember everything. So when she needs me, she Googles Paige and Mavens because that's all she can remember. And because of search engine optimization, I pop right up. So
Oh,
that's
very
all.
good.
Yeah,
That's a very good
that's
secret.
exactly. So you can find me that way too.
That's fantastic. So last question, women in business. Eh, what what had been your biggest challenge when you are going to have a corporate client and then you arrive to a board meeting to present a marketing plan or a marketing strategy, and then when you open the door, you see that everyone is male and you're the only female, and we have uh, more and more we're trying to bring women in business, and more we supporting from this podcast. We want more women to become more entrepreneurs, but we have stories that we hear here, like for example, one person
So
that attended to my workshop speak is a lady. She's graduating from Harvard. And that's happening in London, actually. It's a finance company, graduating from Harvard, and it was a big firm. I'm not gonna mention the name, but she was hired only to put her picture in the website. So when she started to work, they were not taking her advice seriously. They were not considering anything, and she was telling me, Harry, what else I had to prove? I'm a Harvard graduated. I've been in finance all my life, and can you believe these people just hire me just to put my picture in the website? So it's still a lot to that we have to do. Bringing funding, for example, for the startup women in tech, for example, the funding available is really really little compared with men. So tell us how what message do you have for fellow women that want to become an entrepreneur and eventually they will have to face a boardroom full of males, only very little percent of women, and still you have to convey your idea and make them to buy your product and services. So, what secrets do you have that you can share?
So, I started my career before I got into marketing. I was on Wall Street. I did investment
Oh
banking.
wow!
And like you said, this was in the 80s and it was very, very, very male dominated. And so, and when I was in business school, women only made up less than a quarter of the people in the class. So I guess because of my early training, I'm not intimidated when I walk into a room and there are a lot of men because I was
Very good.
used to it early in my career. I think women need to be very prepared so that they can be very confident in the room. I think whether you're talking about a woman doctor, a woman business person, I always think they're like smarter because they've worked harder, they've done more to get where they are. I have a lot of women doctors, in my
Wow!
life because I feel like they're even better because, they've had to work that much harder to be taken seriously. But I think it's a confidence thing. And for companies that need proof, all the research shows that when you have a diverse perspective with different backgrounds, different races, different sexes, those companies always outperform the companies that are too homogeneous. So, I think it's good business. But I've walked into those boardrooms. I've walked into those meetings where I'm the only woman in the room. I think you just have to, be confident and be secure. It is uncomfortable. I had a time earlier in my career where, somebody said to me, kind of, in a more demeaning way, could I get them a cup of coffee before the meeting started?
Wow!
You know what? I'll go ahead. I'm not going to make a big scene. I went,
Absolutely.
I got the coffee, and instead of putting in sugar, I put in salt.
Oh
And
my
he
God!
and he said it was what, this is horrible coffee. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm not used to making coffee. I may have screwed up. I'm sorry. I really, my husband makes coffee for me. I'm not usually the one that makes it. I'm sorry if it doesn't taste very good. He never asked me to make coffee for him ever
Ever
again.
again.
So I think sometimes you just have to have be resilient, have thick skin, and don't let them throw you off your game. I think
Absolutely.
you have to be creative, be smart, and be the smartest person in the room. Do your homework so that you can really win for being the one who adds the most value. If you do that, they will remember you. They'll be glad to invite you back. And I had an older gentleman. It was like my grandfather's age. And after a couple of meetings, he would say, Paige, why don't you sit next to me? I think you've done all the homework. You know what you're talking about. And so I had all these men on my team, but he always wanted me to sit next to him because he knew I was the person who had done all the heavy lifting. So I think you can just win people by being really the best at what you do. And ultimately, I think it does come out, it comes through.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And with that note, I want to say thank you to you for participating in this broadcast and for all of you following the broadcast. See you in our next episode of Unstoppable, how brave entrepreneur life page break that wall and achieve the first million. Bye for now.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.